Welcome to Rich Keys trading channel. Today is Saturday, 21st of June 2025. I'm making this recording at about 1:27 p.m. New York time. I appreciate you joining me on this analysis. Let's all figure out what the market is likely to do in the coming week, and we can take an advantage of homework done to trade profitably. Please know that this is not financial advice. I'm only recording my thoughts and my ideas and my insights, um, and you may use it to your advantage. But know that it's not financial advice. It's just my thoughts and my ideas. Today I'll be covering the dollar index, Bitcoin, S&P 500 index, the Nasdaq 100 index, and the gold asset as well. In order is how I would cover these. So let's get into it and start with the dollar index as we can see on the chart currently. This is the weekly chart of the dollar index, and as we can see on the weekly, we're still in a downward trend. Um, on the daily, we're still in a downward trend. As for me, the daily 50 period average is the trend that I'm following. Until we break above this 50 period average, to me, Dixie is still in a downtrend. Now, could there be a change in trend as we are observing on this double bottom support zone? Possible. As last week I was enumerating that there was a divergence in development. And I say divergence in development because it was still active, as the candlestick we printed last week was a bearish candlestick. Yes, it was a bearish candlestick. And uh, this week we had a green candle. However, this green candle is an open and close still within last week's candle, telling me that last week's candle is still the dominant power here. Um, However, the fact that candle closes within the candle, like the open and closes within last week's candle, tells me this is a sideways price action. And therefore, one has to be cautious trading this. It could go either way. We could make a move up next week towards the 9 period average, or we could get a rejection right from here and come down. My bias is to the downside, and the reason being that if you go on the daily chart, okay, so the daily chart, I have a controlling candle on here, and this candle that we printed on Thursday. The fact that we could not close above the close of this candle, you know, the open of this candle tells me that the bears have gained the upper hand. We can also see the rejection of value beyond the 21-day period average, which has always also been a good resistance since we broke below it. I think based on the daily chart and a few other indicators I'll show on lower time frame, this is going to reverse and come here and come down. When I look at the 8-hour setup, you would realize again from here that the resistance trend line that goes all the way back to like May 11th when we made this move up. I put this resistance trend line here, and so far we haven't violated it. If we get a candle open and close above this resistance trend line, it will signal to me that something is changing, and uh, that could mean that the double bottom that we are seeing on the daily chart could actually make a stronger move further upside. But for now, that resistance line have been respected carefully as we came to it and we bounced down. Then when we bounced down, we gap down actually. And with the gap down, if you go down the 4 hours, you would observe that this gap has currently been closed. Oops. So there's a gap that was created right here. And this gap has now been closed officially. And we printed a candle that should have taken us further up, but as you can see, we ended the last 4 hours of trading section in a red candle, telling me that more likely when we do open market back up on Sunday night, considering that momentum has already dipped down on the 4-hour time frame, Yes, on the daily, momentum is still up. As I was saying, the daily momentum is still up. But if you go to 4 hours, you will see that momentum is getting on the daily, even though it's up, it's getting weak on the 4 hour time frame. And that's why I'm saying that the energy to go up is coming out. You could also see from RSI that RSI is printing, bearish signals at the moment. If you swing down to the hourly briefly, I'd like to cover something on the hourly because an interesting chart pattern on the hourly. On the hourly, we've kind of printed a head and shoulder pattern: left shoulder, head, right shoulder, right? And this was the gap that was created. That gap went up to be filled with a shooting star rejection of candle. This candle has been retested, and it seems like with this candle that was printed the last hour of trading section, more likely we're going to come down. But I expect us to break this neckline first, this neckline here, to confirm our target for Dixie in the coming week to be somewhere to come all the way to about 97,370 or 97,386 is my target for the Dixie. The next asset I'd like to cover is Bitcoin, and taking Bitcoin from the Coinbase data feed. So Bitcoin on the weekly chart, as we can see, uh, first of all, let's be clear, the week is not ended yet on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's week ends on Sunday, 7 p.m. New York time. So until Sunday, 7 p.m., if this candle changes, it's just will be a float in the analysis. However, I'm recording this on a Saturday, 21st of June 2025, and I don't know what the candlestick print would be before the end of the day. So let's assume that the day or the week is ended and this is the print that we have on Bitcoin. Then obviously we are closing below, way below last week's closing. That for me is still signaling that Bitcoin is about to make a pullback. I wouldn't necessarily call it a reversal until it's confirmed, but a pullback, a strong pullback, is imminent on Bitcoin for me. When we look on the weekly, some indicators that is giving me a clue is my cycle that I was showing you. We haven't hit the cycle low yet, and stochastic hasn't turned around yet. So for me, I'm still leaning to the downside on Bitcoin. If you look at my RSI is also getting weaker and weaker as we are tipping down and down. Now currently below the RSI moving average. MACD is also getting weaker and weaker on the weekly. We had this, as you can see, the momentum is coming out, and until we get a week where momentum picks back up, see if I can show you one that happened in the past. Um, yeah, like these ones, So here you come down, and then you get a strong momentum uptick. That's a changing momentum that I'll be looking for. But until any of these things happen, I'm still leaning to the bearish side. Now, the daily chart is more interesting because, as I pointed out last week, the daily is already crossed down, and we are still, making um, momentum to the downside. Now, on the chart itself, what is looking interesting is the support that Bitcoin seems to hold always at the 50 period moving average. So we came down, did a 3 point move, 1, 2, 3, hit the 50, and then we had a bounce. Now, as I was always also pointed out, that this triangle is something I'm watching out for a breakout. So a breakout of this triangle will give me more perspective as to which of the targets of Bitcoin that will be in view, whether we're coming down to 96, 97 target, or we'll be going up to the 125, 124 cup and handle target. So these are two targets on my chart. Currently, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is in a triangle consolidation until we break out. Um, are we likely to break out of this triangle to the downside? I think so. And that's just based on the lower time frame. So if you come to like the 4 hour time frame, you would realize that this was the previous bounce that we had. We went all the way up, and we've been just chopping down right around this 200 period moving average. Now, currently at this recording, we could all clearly see that you have your 50 period average about to cross your 200, And once this crossover happens, there's evidence that more likely we're coming down to this structural low of 100,465, and we should break this structural low. That for me would confirm a lower low, and therefore I would at that point assume that Bitcoin is now officially in a nice retrace. Now, this lower low, if you can look at also on the daily, will tell you that we would have broken out of the triangle. This is the line for the triangle. So once we hit this target here, we would officially be out of this triangle. Uh, um, in a way, will be officially out of the triangle. Would have also broken below the 50 period average, which has acted as a support since we began this rally all the way in April 7th or 8th, thereabout, when we formed this double bottom pattern that started this rally. Um, so those are a few things I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Should we break this? Yes, that's my first target. And below this target will be my 95, 96, about 97, I would say. Somewhere right here is my target. 96.9 or 97,000 will be my target, initial target. And when we get here, we'll reassess. Yeah, the next asset that I would like to cover is XPX. And XPX, like I was saying, it seems like it's topping out at all-time high, and the likelihood for it to break this high to me is very slim. As you can look at it from the daily chart, since last week that we made this high, we haven't made any high. We gradually been inching lower high, lower high, lower high. So after this week high, which we printed on the 11th of June, we haven't been able to exceed this high, and it's either going to be a strong pullback, probably to the 50 period average, or we're going to have a much deeper, stronger, pullback to close the gaps that were printed on the way up. And there are two big gaps on XPX. We have a gap that was printed right here that has not yet been filled, and we have another gap that has been printed here. I don't know when these gaps will be filled, but for me, SPX is topping out. This is not the time that I'll be loading up on XPX. I don't like buying at the top. If anything at all, it's better you buy at the bottom and wait for the rise. But for those that are looking for a breakout of this, sure, I get your point. A few clues is that RSI is showing all these bearish movement. We're breaking below the 50% level of RSI. This is my 50% level, and RSI is currently dipped below that. Came below, way below, and now we have come back up, but we're still below 50%. Until RSI gets above the 70 mark, I don't see any strength to break that all-time high. Um, Momentum is something that I've been following pretty well, also from last week, and ever since I had this cross, I've been bearish on XPX. It's just the signal that gives you ahead of time that once this is down, until we go back up, there's no energy to the upside. And so for me, XPS is more likely going to do a stronger retrace. And like I said, if it does, my first target is the close of this gap. And therefore, I expect price to come somewhere around 5,000, 5,670. And once we get here, we'll reassess. And now here is also a daily chart for NASDAQ 100. And the picture is no different from the XPS that we just covered. And as I said, to me, this is all consolidation. We haven't made any new high ever since June 11th. Even though we had a strong bullish engulfing candle here, we still could not even push it any further. The next day, we sold, made a lower high, sold. This one seemed to have given us a clue, another rejection of value by the print of this candle right here. So yeah, all this is telling you that the move to the upside is pretty much gone. Like, I don't see it. A few indicators that I'm also looking at is, again, the RSI. RSI is showing the strength. There's no strength to push this up. Strength has been coming down, 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 down. We are officially also below the 50% level on RSI, kind of getting into a strong retrace mode. MACD on the daily chart, as I was pointing out from last week, is still, yes, it's not a strong downtrend. Okay, so this could be consolidating, but it's not, it's until we cross back up. To me, XPX is the Nasdaq is still weak to go any further up. I'm expecting that this consolidation may continue a little bit longer, or we may break the 21. And the break of this 21, the close below this 21, would signify that, okay, officially, this consolidation that actually started somewhere around here, okay, somewhere around June 3rd. So from June 3rd till now, we've just been consolidating. Price tag between this range and this range. And should we break the 21, would have broken below also the range. And therefore, it would confirm to me that officially a pullback, a strong pullback is in view. And should we pull back, I'm expecting NASDAQ to come close this gap that was created, on the way up first before we reassess whether there'll be more downward action. So my target for NASDAQ is still at 20,114 once we break below the 21 period moving average. Okay, so the last asset that I'd like to cover is gold. And this is gold from forex.com. Yeah, gold is also in a nice uptrend. For me, this 50-day period average is a trend line. It's not been broken. It's not been broken below. So I expect, yeah, so to me, this is still in consolidation. We did a triple top here, and I was expecting a breakout last week. Unfortunately, I didn't get my breakout. However, I'm not bearish on gold. I think gold is still consolidating within this range. With a triple top, I would have expected a stronger move down. But as you can see, we're getting support right at the 21 period moving average on gold. And I just decided to put these triangles in here to remind me that this is the structure that I'm watching, and we are breaking outside this structure. Yes, are we getting some resistance at this all-time high? Yes, we are. Would we break it at some point? I'm quite confident we will. We might just have to consolidate a little bit more right at this place. So if you look on the daily, you see this rejection of value right of the 21. It comes to the 21, you see a wick. It comes to the 21, you see a wick. This all tells me that whilst, yes, resistance is at the all-time high, there's accumulation happening. And for me, as I initially pointed out, the 50 period average is trend line. Until we break below it, I'm still bullish on gold. Um, could we have a stronger retrace to the 50? Possible. But having tested the 50 right here and had a support to test the all-time high again, I think it's just going to consolidate here and to have a breakout. When the breakout will happen, I'll be watching my stochastic cycle to turn up. Currently, stochastic cycle is pointing downwards. But however, RSI is holding. It's holding about the 50, telling me that potentially strength could come back to push it further up. Momentum by MACD is showing some weakness, but we're still above. I mean, my lines is what I'm talking about. Still above the zero. Now weakness is here, but just like the previous consolidation, we did below. Here we did below. Doesn't mean, now, of course, if momentum gathers more and we start coming down, then of course, yes, I'm pretty sure we probably would come all the way down to the 50. But once the 50 is broken and we go below the 50 period average, I'll consider that as bearish. So in a nutshell, I mean, these are my views on these five assets. You know, the dollar index, Bitcoin, SPX500, Nasdaq 100, and gold. Please take these as my own trade ideas and my analysis. It's not financial advice. You may do your own detailed analysis as well. Thanks for listening. Have a great trading week. Cheers.